Hello, everyone. Looks like we are live. Hope you can hear me. We've had some trouble in the past with the audio. I apologize for that. I'll do the best I can. I am pretty good at talking, whether or not you can hear me or not. I'm good at two things: talking and talking about airbrushing. It is my passion. If you're new here, I am Crazy Thing, the airbrush guy. If you're not new here, then you probably know exactly who I am. And you've probably heard me talk before. So I am doing this from my laptop. I will let you know what we're doing today. This morning, I am here to show you how I set things up. Every day I get asked, how do I get started? What's the best for this? What's the best for that? So that's what I'm going to do today. Hey, David, how's it going? So I'm going to just try to make a brief 20, 30-minute video tops, hopefully, to show you how I set up every day. Now, I try to let everybody know this is how I do it, not the way you have to do it. I do run a business. I run an airbrush business where I airbrush basically anything that'll sit still. See if we can get a good camera angle here for you. So I will go through and tell you how I set my equipment up, what I use. I'll try to give you as much information as I can, try to help you out. That's my goal. I want to help out those that are out there that are struggling with trying to get going, those that want to get started, because airbrushing is an amazing, amazing way to express your art. If you're creative or not, this right here, this little magic tool is amazing. Okay. Right now, it's just got water in it. And I recommend if you're very new at this to just put water in your airbrush gun and practice. Put it on a piece of cardboard, spray it, spray some water on it, check it out. Use your trigger, help you figure things out, get some muscle memory. So here we go. I think I've got about everything covered. What I use is an Iwata Eclipse, and I won't use anything else on a customer's project. The only other airbrush gun I own is a Master, which is a cheaper gun. I use those for like airbrush tattoos and things that have alcohol based products in them that could harm the inside of the airbrush gun. I buy the cheaper guns for that. And I call them my throwaway guns. And I'm not trying to knock them and say that they're garbage, but in my case, I'll use them until they're starting to get wore out. And then for me, it's not worth it for me to keep them. I got my money's worth out of it. I'm going to get rid of it and just grab me another one. That's just the business side of it. But every day I use my Iwata Eclipse. These are top feed. They are amazing guns. They are the workhorse of the airbrush community. Hello, Michelle and Russell and Bridget. Welcome in. Welcome in. So, like I said, I recommend using water. Spray it through there. Check it out. All right. Now, you will need air. That big old yellow thing back there, that is my air compressor. It's loud. It's big. It runs my whole shop. You need to make sure that you have 25 psi consistently. When I say consistently, that means it needs to continue whether you're pushing the button or not. You need to have that 25 psi at all times. You need to be able to go up to 30, 35 sometimes. That's okay. But the minimum that I ever use to spray out my paint is 25 psi. Whatever it takes for you to do that, that's up to you. I have little compressors. You probably can't see them very well. I have like 3 little compressors back there that I use when I'm on the road because I will travel some. But for my shop, I use that big boy back there. It'll come on about every 30 to 45 minutes, depending on what I'm airbrushing. But it works sufficiently very well for what I need. So I like to mark everything in my shop because I don't want to make mistakes no more than I have to. This gun here is marked with a piece of tape and a W. I do that because it lets me know that that is where I'm going to put my white paint, which is white is what I use the most. That's just my style and how I do things. I work from black, which is why I put that shirt and this canvas down here so you can see. If you haven't seen some of my work, everything's right and left. I'm so confused. My best work comes from black. I like to pull the image from the black using white. That way I get my grays, my black and white scale. But that's just my style. Your style may be completely different. That's fine. But this is my white gun. I will never have to worry about having black residue or black specks or blue or anything like that. I won't have to worry about that in here. But that's because I run a business that requires me to use a broad spectrum of colors and different things. So I have several of these different guns. If you only have one, then that's fine. There's no reason to mark it. Even my water bottles and such, it says water on it. Why? So I don't get mixed up with my cleaner. This bottle of cleaner will last me over a year. Why? Because 90% of the time I clean my airbrush guns out with water. I do have videos on my YouTube, on my live playlist, that'll teach you how to clean these out. As far as using one, like I said, start out with water. Make sure you got at least 25 PSI. I have quick disconnects for all mine so that I can pop this on, take it off if I need to, put on my next color. Quick, easy, ready to go. Efficient for business. The cap comes off. You will put your paint in here. I recommend keeping, especially if you're a beginner, keep the little nozzle cap on your gun as you're spraying because that keeps your needle safe. Keeps you from hitting it on something because if you hit that on something, your day's ruined, depending on how hard you hit it. So I just sprayed all the water out. Now it's time to mix some paint. I'm going to reach over here in my paint box. I'm going to get out my reducer. This is my all-purpose reducer. The reason I call it all-purpose is because it's the only one I use. Do they make other ones? Absolutely. Maybe where you live, a different one will work better for you. I don't know. I'm telling you, I am in Kentucky. My temperatures go anywhere from 100 degrees to 0. Sometimes wind chills below that. I use Createx 4012 reducer. I'll have people tell me all the time, well, 4011 is better. You use the 4030. Well, you do you, boo. I'm telling you what I do. Now, if you remember, this has a W on it, so it's going to be my white paint. I use Createx opaque white. There's the part number. I use the bigger bottles because I go through this like crazy. I use it a lot. Now, I want to save you a lot of headaches. When you get a brand new bottle, be very careful with it. Take the top off, and there's going to be a seal on it. Go ahead and remove that seal carefully. Throw it away. Put the top back on. Make sure no pieces of that seal come out. Belinda, that's correct. Reducer is just like a paint thinner. I'll get to that in just a minute, though. With your paint, don't shake this bottle until you've taken that seal off, or it will pressurize this just a little bit. And when you take that seal off, it'll ask me how I know. Yeah, that's fun. So I'm trying to save you that headache or that lesson, okay? But once you get the seal off of it, it's time to shake your paint. You want to shake this every day. I shake my paint every day. Now, the reason I do that is because this will settle and separate on you. Most paint does, as far as I know. So it's always a good idea. If you ever bought paint somewhere, whether it's for your house or whatever you're doing, notice they'll put it in, they'll mix it up with a paint shaker machine and all that stuff. You don't want this stuff to separate on you, and then you don't even know what parts of this you're pouring into your airbrush gun. That's not good. So get it all good and mixed up really well. It also says on the bottle, do not freeze. And I can promise you, you do not want it to freeze. I don't know. I'm not a chemist. I don't know exactly what changes when it freezes, but I don't think it ever goes back together right once it has frozen. So you're just going to have a lot of problems. Well, if you're working on somebody else's project and you're just having trouble after trouble after trouble, it might be because your paint is old or you've let it freeze. Now, I am not sponsored by anybody, but I will tell you that Coast Airbrush is where I get my stuff from because I know that this stuff has not been sitting on a shelf for years. You can get this at some stores. I believe like Hobby Lobby has it. But how long did it sit at Hobby Lobby's main warehouse before it got shipped to your individual store? And then how long has it been sitting on that shelf before you bought it? And then now it's sitting on your shelf. It could be sitting for years and you don't even know it. So here's how I get mine ready. Pop the top. I'm going to put about a third of a cup. When I say a third of a cup, I mean about a third of this cup. I'm just guessing. There's no science involved for me. I'm not a scientist. Gloria, good morning. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see this very well. I will try my best to show you. That is about a third of my cup. So now, I'm going to put about the same amount so that I get about a 50-50 blend, okay? You want it to be a good consistency. But what I'm going to do, why am I doing 1/3 this and 1/3 that? Because the other third, I'm leaving empty. That leaves you room for adjustment. I'm going to get out my handy dandy brush here and mix this. Now you see what I've done here? I put a third reducer, a third paint, and now it needs to be mixed. And that leaves me about a third of my cup empty. That allows me to go back in if I need to and add more reducer. Or maybe I need to add some more paint. If you filled this up, you can't do that. It's always a good idea, just a third and a third. That gives me about a 50-50 mixture. Now once this is all mixed up, you want it to be about the consistency of milk. That is the best info that I have found online when I was learning and everything. Everybody kind of said the same thing. You want the consistency of milk. So if you look at it and it's thicker than that, add a little bit of the reducer to it or like a paint thinner and it thins the paint down because you can spray the paint by itself. You can just pour the paint in here and spray it. You hit that button, you hit that trigger, and it'll come out. But you may not have near as much control. The consistency will be a little bit thick. And if you're just looking for major coverage, that's okay. But if you're looking to do some detail work, you're going to want to thin that down a little bit. I hope that makes sense to everybody. You are welcome to ask questions. I will get notifications from you if you ask questions on here. Or you can contact me through my website at crazythingart.com. And I'm going to do some more promoting while I'm sitting there doing it. I do sell my work through Etsy. If you look me up, Crazy Thing Art on Etsy.com, you can purchase from me. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. I'm doing live videos almost every day for you guys to try to help entertain a few people and help people learn. And some people just enjoy watching me. I keep rags laying around for cleanup. I'm going to put my lid back on here. And this one's fairly new, but you want to make sure that that hole right there in the center of that cap, make sure it's open. There's nothing in there. So I'm going to set this gun to the side. Quick disconnect. You ready? Whoop. I'm going to clean my brush and get as much of the excess paint off of it as I can. Oh, there you are. Ta-da! It's not perfect, but it's pretty clean. Now, why did I do that? Ooh, look there. I moved the whole table. I moved the whole world watching me. Are you dizzy? Now I'm going to grab another one. This is another one. This is my B is what is on it. It's marked with a B. So you want to learn trigger control. I'll show you trigger control on these bad boys if you want to learn. If you made it this far. When you push down on that trigger, that's your air control. Air only. Up and down is air only. There is the mechanism goes right through here that opens it up for this airline. That's all that does. Like a little plunger, up and down, letting air in. And it's up to you how much air you let in by how hard you push that trigger. And it is very finicky. Okay. Now when you pull back, see how there's no air? That opens up the material because there's a needle in here that goes like this when you pull back on that trigger. That's what lets your material flow. With the combination of your air and your material, between the two, see that? That's how it functions. It's not very complicated and it doesn't take you long to figure it out. 5-10 minutes of practicing with water and you're going to feel like a professional. And that's okay because you are. What's your definition of professional, right? So this has water in it. I cleaned these out really good yesterday. Again, if you want to learn how to clean them out, I do have videos on that. I've got more videos on here than you can watch. Yeah, that's a dare. All right, we got all the water out. We'll do the same thing I did before, but with black. Now, what do? We shake our paint. I just used these like yesterday. That's okay. I'm going to shake it again today. I don't want it to have settled overnight. I don't want to take that chance. I don't want to fight it all day. So let's say you've started airbrushing and you're having troubles. Let's talk about troubleshooting for a minute while my paint mixes. One issue that people find is tip dry. Well, what is that? Like you're all of a sudden you're airbrushing and it stops working. Like I can hear it, air's coming out, but material isn't. Many times that's tip dry. Good morning, Stephen. How are you doing? And what the tip dry is, it's on the end of that needle, like I told you. You're going to be airbrushing with this cap on there that I just took off. But on the end of that, paint goes across that needle, and that needle is the paint's guide to point it where to go. Okay? So as that paint starts to build up on that needle, it dries. A lot of people will tell you, never touch that needle. Oh my goodness. I've seen people that use toothbrushes to lightly clean that needle. I've seen people use sponges and Q-tips and different ideas. Me personally, I have fingernails. I keep these fingernails long, these two right here, just for that purpose, because I actually will clean my needle on a regular basis. Every couple minutes, I'm doing this. Boop. Using my fingernails to barely clean that needle, because I can feel it and see it and sometimes hear it as I'm running. And then all of a sudden, that fine detail that I was doing is not there anymore. And that's why. You've basically stopped up your hole at the end of it. So you can clean that little bit of tip dry, that little bit of paint off of there, and go right back at it. A lot of people say that there's additives that you can add to your paint that'll help reduce the tip dry some. I've tried a couple of them and I didn't have any luck. That doesn't mean that you won't have any luck if you want to try that stuff. Depends on what you're doing. Because see me, I'm working on people's projects. Hopefully one of yours that you've ordered from me. So I don't really have the ability to be experimenting too much. So I just stay simple and use the stuff I know that works. That doesn't mean that there's not better ways to do it. I just know what I use. And it seems to work for me pretty well. All right, we're going to do just like we did a few minutes ago. I'm going to put 1/3 of my 4012 reducer in there. It should look about like it did earlier. I know that there's some people out there that love to hear exact measurements and things like that. I don't have any of the exact measurements for you. You're welcome to try to figure out and calculate it yourself and do what you need to do, and that's okay. Me, I'm going to do 1/3 of a cup reducer, 1/3 of a cup paint, 1/3 of a cup's going to be empty so that I can adjust it as I need to. Here comes the black. There are also people out there that use different filters to filter their paint before it goes into the cup. I go through my paint quite fast because of the amount of airbrushing I do. I airbrush almost every day. I push out a lot of projects every day, every week. So I go through a lot of paint. I'm going to use my handy dandy brush here. Guys, when you go to get a brush to mix these with, if you're going to do it like this, don't buy the dollar store cheap brush. You will regret it. If you buy a brush where all the little bristles come flying off of it every time you use it, where's those bristles going to end up? Yeah, they're going to be in your cup and they're going to get stuck down in there and you got to clean them out. And you going to do that every day or every time you go to use it? I wouldn't want to. So I'm going to mix this up really well. And then according to the research that I have found, plus my experience, I have noticed that if you let these sit for 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes, the paint gets happy while it's sitting in there with its reducer and after it's all mixed up, and it'll do a fantastic job together. So if you've got time to wait a few minutes, let it sit in that cup for a few minutes. Let it get happy, and then you can use it, and it'll spray a little bit better for you. Now, if you've let it sit a couple hours, it's probably going to need to be remixed again. If you've let it sit maybe 3, 4, 5 hours, like I have done before, then all of a sudden it stops spraying near as good. You may want to remix your paint. Either dump out what you have or maybe add a little reducer to it, kind of freshen it up a little bit, and then you'll see that it's starting to spray a lot better again. But yeah, that 9 times out of 10, as long as everything's clean, the tip dry is going to be your biggest problem. Grab my darker rag for this brush. Tip dry is a major problem. Now, I do know that they make different kind of paints. I am talking about tip dry on acrylic water-based paints. There is other paints that doesn't have any tip dry at all. That's not what I use. So I'm going to set this over here out of the way. It's going to sit over there and get happy and be ready for me to airbrush. Today I'm actually going to be airbrushing on canvas. I will use that same mixture that I just showed you to airbrush on metal, whether it's a car or a truck, tailgate or a hood or a motorcycle. And I'll use that same mixture on helmets when I do helmets. I'll even use that same mixture when I'm doing like license plates, canvases, toilet seats, or anything else I might airbrush with a hard surface. Now, when I'm airbrushing on shirts or hats or hoodies, I might, depending on the amount of detail that I think I'm going to do, I may actually leave the paint a little thicker. But that may be a video for another time when we get into details. I have done classes for people where me and you sit here and discuss this on a video, and I help you out that way. If you want to do some one-on-one classes with me, no problem. Message me somewhere, and I will be sure to give you my rates on what the classes are. Say hi to Jack. Hi, Jack. Don't talk to him that way. Shame on you. If you have trouble reaching me, I am that crazy fool that will do this right here on camera and hope I don't get in, a whole bunch of trouble. But yeah, you just saw that. If you need to, rewind it and pause it. There's always a way to get a hold of me, whatever it is you need. I am out there. If you're going to run a business, I will tell you right now, you had better be pushing your stuff out there. Practice, practice, practice. That makes perfect. Everybody knows that, but it doesn't matter how good you are or how good you're not. If your brother and your cousin and your next door neighbor is the only people that know that you do it. So be willing to put it out there. Let the world see what you're doing, and you better be prepared up here for what's coming because there's going to be people that like your work. There's going to be people that can't stand your work. There's going to be people that tell you how to do it. I get that every single day. Somebody's going to tell me that I could have done something different on that shirt, and that's okay. Would you teach a 13 and 7-year-old girls that are very artistic, very motivated? Absolutely, I would love to. I've taught children all the way down to I think 6. Not a problem. I've done drawing lessons with people, airbrush lessons with people, um, whatever you need. I have taught people in person, local people here in my shop. I do a little bit of everything. Some people, they like my skull work. I put skulls on basically anything. Today I'll be doing a landscape piece. I'll be live on Facebook today. Later on today, I'm going to take me a lunch break here in just a second. I'm live on TikTok all the time. Depending on what's hot at the moment and where people want me and where I get the most attention is where I'm going to put the most efforts. So you got to be smart about it. If you just want to do this as a hobby, I still recommend getting good tools. If you just want to be curious and learn how to do it, then go ahead and you're going to get what you pay for. But go ahead and get the cheaper stuff, but be prepared to have some troubles. Just bought all the hardware to hook up a big compressor for Christmas. Nice. Jungle forever. I'm glad to hear that. Sounds like you're prepared and ready. Um, I do have some more videos, like I was stating earlier. This one was how to get started. I've got other videos on how to clean up your equipment and things like that. So that way I cover both areas. I don't have a ton of videos with me actually airbrushing, but there are some out there. Again, if you look on my live playlist here on YouTube, that's where the biggest bulk of those are. All the rest of the normal videos are products that I have finished, and I like to tell a story about what it is or where it's going, or maybe a story about the customer themselves. That's the cool thing about being on YouTube and being able to explain that stuff versus like a Facebook post is like, look, here's what I did, and then that's the end of it. So I like to be versatile. I do a little bit of everything. I know you see a lot of scary stuff and spooky stuff. Uh, Eagles are nice. I like patriotic things. Memorial work is some of the my favorite pieces because it actually does what I'm here to do. And what I'm here to do is to make a positive impact on the lives of other people using what I know best, and that's my art. So I let my art do that. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't do the scary skulls and still not love the darker side of things when it comes to that. But I'll also do pet portraits, hummingbirds, and anything else that you guys need me to do. I will airbrush a likeness of absolutely anything you want. Okay. So I'm going to jump off here. I'm going to take me a break so that I can come back out here and start using those airbrush guns that you watched me get ready. If you need anything at all, give me a shout. If you just want to check out some of my work, I've got a gallery for you that's got thousands of pictures on it at crazythingart.com. If you want some of my work, or if you want a price on me doing some work for you, go to my Etsy page. It should be a link in this description. If not, look up Crazy Thing Art. I am everywhere. So I will catch you in the next one.